When you have your girls, you're never alone. You get together for coffee, maybe to work out, or just to laugh. We created Hey Girl, just for you. Can't wait for you to join us.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Hey Girl. I'm your girl, Kim, with an E, and this is episode 96. If you're joining us for the first time, I want to let you know that Hey Girl is a safe space where you can share your experience and be affirmed. Let's face it, life can be complex and sometimes overwhelming. That's why we believe in the power of conversation, because knowing you're not alone is what will help you get through. So come on in and say hello in the comments. Let us know that you are here and get ready for a great show. Hey, Shayla Renee Little. So glad to see you out there. I'm glad you all are joining us for this last week of our Black History Month emphasis on Black Girl Magic. We have had some amazing guests on this month. If you've missed any of the episodes, you can go back right here on our Facebook page and see those past episodes. I've had so much fun having these conversations with just beautiful Black women that are just doing so many amazing things in so many different areas with so many different specialties. And, often, unfortunately, because women are still discriminated against, even in Black History Month, women go a lot of times the historical women go without notice. We know Martin Luther King and Thurgood Marshall, and we know some of the men's names, but we don't know some of the women's names who have done amazing things. And so we can just make our small contribution here on Hey Girl with the women that we know, the women in our own lives, the women that are within our reach who are having impact in small ways and in big ways. But also, all month, I've been asking you guys to share in the comments the names of women that you admire, whether they are women in your personal life or women that you admire who are maybe at a distance from you, but are having wide impact. So, Shayla, tell me in the comments the name of a woman. I bet I can guess what name you'll put, who has in particular impacted your life. And let's call the names of these women because those names need to be remembered. That's what this month has been all about. And I'm not going to let this month pass without making sure some of those amazing women are named and called out for the contributions that they have made in the world. As you're thinking about those amazing Black women who you admire, I just want to name a few of my favorites. Haven't had a chance to do that. Right off the top of my head, of course, I would say Michelle Obama. Now, that's an easy one, I know, because she was the first Black woman to be a first lady. But she's also such a poised and graceful person. I just admire the work that she's done with children and with health and fitness for our young people. And her book, Becoming, was just a great inspiration in so many ways. So if you haven't read her book yet, definitely grab that. So yes, Michelle Obama. And then, of course, Toni Morrison, who I was just so devastated to learn when she passed not too long ago. It was a year or two ago. She was always one of those people who I had hoped to meet someday. As a writer, I just absolutely have been inspired by her skill and talent as a writer. And I just found her to be just a very profound Black woman with such presence and influence in the world in so many ways that I truly admire her. And then more recently, a new name has come to the fore who I'm super excited about, super excited to learn more about. And that is Ketanji Brown Jackson. I'm not even sure if I'm saying her name correctly, but this week, of course, she was named as the first Black woman to be nominated for a Supreme Court seat. And that is just amazing. And I've just been reading about her, and her resume is just impressive. Like, this woman is no joke. Okay. She's the real deal. But I thought it was so interesting when she gave her talk yesterday that she named another Black woman in the position of law. And I had actually heard this name a few times over the past couple of weeks, and I was like, who is this person? But what's interesting about these two women that you see on the screen, as Ketanji said in her talk yesterday, they actually share the same birthday, which I think is so interesting, right? But the woman whose name we may not know so well, Constance Baker Motley, is who she is. And she was the first woman to argue, African American woman to argue a case before the Supreme Court, and the first to serve as a federal judge. And so that interesting connection between these two women in that they share the same birthday, I thought was just a really unique coincidence. But Constance Baker Motley is one of those historic figures, like I said, who we don't know. I never heard her name before these past couple of weeks, and it was in the context of Ketanji being nominated as a Supreme Court justice. And so what we don't know is that, well, we know the name of Thurgood Marshall, but what we don't know is that Constance Baker Motley worked for him, and she also defended Martin Luther King. Of course, we know Martin Luther King, but we don't know her. So she's just one of those figures who was doing some really important things and just kind of flew under the radar. She was connected to these people who we know, but not many knew her. And it should be said that she is responsible for the litigation that integrated universities of Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi, among others, back during the Jim Crow era or just after. And so I'm just excited to be able to learn about these women and to call their names and make their histories known. And so, as I said, let's do our part. Put the name of the women that you admire in the comments. And Shayla, who'd you say? Of course. I knew you were going to say that. My mama, Julie B. Childs Dent, who is also an amazing Black woman, indeed. And she is impacting the lives of young people every day and has been doing so for a very long time. Yes, Michelle Obama, Beyonce, Jessica Clemens. Okay. Harriet Tubman. Yes, I hear you. And definitely Ketanji. Absolutely. Good stuff. Yeah. So guys, definitely let me know if you think of others. So as I've said, this month has been full of amazing conversations with Black women who are doing great things. And I was so excited yesterday to receive a package from one of our previous guests. Uh-oh, I'm dropping things. Oh, there we go. Do you remember Cynthia Payon? Let's see if I can show you the box that I got. Look at that. Isn't that cute? She is the Black woman who is a private chef to the stars. She's cooked for Will Smith and many others. And she has her own line of seasonings. I think I have shown you before some of the seasonings. Her company is Af Cave, and she is actually running a special this month, buy one, get one free for her seasonings. If you want to know more about Cynthia, definitely go back to that episode that we had her on where she talked about the foods that she cooks, and she's a vegan chef, and she's just doing really amazing things. So of course, the seasoning that she talked most about was the tofu scramble magic. She said it makes tofu taste just amazing. And anyone who's had tofu knows that tofu is basically tastes like air until you fix it up. But I made some tofu this morning, scrambled some tofu, had some toast, and look at me trying to be healthy with my apple slices. I wanted to show you what I had for breakfast this morning because I needed to try out the tofu scramble and see if it was everything that she said it would be. I also, by the way, added a little bit of this habesha spice, which has a nice little bit of heat to it. And I'm gonna just say, between that and the tofu scramble seasoning, a little salt and pepper, y'all, the tofu was delicious. And I'm not just saying that. Like, I was worried. I was like, what if I don't really like it? How am I gonna talk about? Am I talking too long? The music is coming on to tell me to be quiet. No, I have to tell you that I thought, oh man, is this gonna be as good as I'm hoping? It was so good, y'all. Seriously, I'm not making that up. I'm not just saying it. It's worth going and getting yourself a bottle of the tofu scramble. I have not yet had a chance to use the maroon maple jerk syrup, but Cynthia talked about how this would be really good with like a chicken and waffles type dish, or if you do a vegan version of chicken and waffles. So I'm thinking Sunday morning breakfast is going to be, yes, on point. I have tasted each of these just in my hand. Lots of good flavor. So thank you so much to Cynthia for sending us some of her spices. And guys, I definitely encourage you to go out and grab them up because they are really, really good. Hey, Lisa, go get you some of these spices, girl, and cook you up some tofu and chicken and waffles. But I know you, Lisa, you're just going to come to my house and have some, right? Yes, Shayla, you said her food is bomb. Oh man, I told her if you could just come to my house and cook for me, I would just be so happy. Yeah, for sure. Y'all check it out. We have to support our peeps. As you know, we've added Cynthia to the Hey Girl High Five, and I'm all about supporting small businesses, and particularly when they are doing really good stuff such as this. So don't forget to go to our page and check out the other businesses that are listed there. We have some good ones. And then, of course, if you have a small business or if you know of a small business that we need to highlight or feature, definitely give us a call. You can go to justkim.net and go to the contact page and send us a little note and let us know the Black business that you think we should support. All right. Well, that is all of the housekeeping things I have for us. We're going to get into this conversation today. The very last guest for the month is none other than Brandie Inez Sutton, a versatile, dynamic, and mesmerizing soprano. She has garnered accolades and devoted fans around the globe thanks to an impressive array of recitals, operatic roles, and concert performances with acclaimed orchestras. Hailed by Opera News for her sumptuous mid-weight soprano and by the New York Times for her warm, ample voice and ravishing performance, Miss Sutton is one of the classical world's most impressive new stars. She's a native of Huntsville, Alabama, began her formal training in college when her music teacher said that she has a gift. And in 2009, Sutton completed a Master of Arts in Vocal Performance from Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C. She made her solo recital debut in 2010 at the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. In 2011, she appeared at Merkin Concert Hall in Lincoln Center. And in 2015, made her concert debut at Carnegie Hall. In 2018, she cinched her first Metropolitan Opera contract and since then has performed with the National Symphony Orchestra, Royal Danish Symphony Orchestra, the Radio Orpheus Symphony Orchestra in Moscow, and has appeared on opera stages all over the world. Along the way, Brandie has deepened her repertoire and expanded her audiences by performing folk, jazz, pop, and classical material. She's truly Black girl magic in action. So please, if you would, welcome with me Miss Brandie Sutton to Hey Girl.
Hi,
Hey,
thank you for having me.
I'm so glad to have you. It's good to have you
I'm
here.
glad
I'm
to be
so
here.
impressed with the work that I've been seeing you do, and it's
Thank
funny
you.
because you're a little bit younger than me, so I feel like I've kind of watched you grow up in a way. and
Right.
um and and then we have actually a family connection. Your mom and my mom have known each other since grade school, and of course your grandmother Inez Booth,
hmm
everyone knows in this community. So yeah, you
Yeah.
have deep
Yep.
roots in Huntsville,
Yes.
Alabama.
Yes,
But
indeed.
it's just amazing to look at where you started and where you've gone from there. So
Man, yeah.
kudos to
It's
you.
it's crazy for me too, so thank you.
Is it surreal at times?
Yeah. I mean, I sometimes I'm like, wow, I am living this, you know. I guess because I'm
Yeah,
still trying to get to where I want to be and I don't really have like an ultimate goal. It's the sky's the limit. So
absolutely. Yeah, it's just gonna
yeah.
keep going for the ride. So for those who don't know you, why don't you tell us a little bit about your upbringing and where you started and how you came to decide that you wanted to sing? Is that something you always wanted to do, or did it come to you later?
Yeah, well, I always sang when I was younger. My mother actually had myself and my brother sing a duet at Oakwood University Church. It was Oakwood College Church then. I had to be maybe
Mhm.
8 years old. And I grew up always singing gospel, and in small girl groups in school because we would sing for like AY on Friday or
Mhm.
something like that, and even at church. And I never sang classically. I always heard the Aeolians and loved to listen to the Aeolians. And the one song they played on at the time, it was WOCG, all the time was the Aeolians singing The Lord Be Praised. And Anika Sampson Anderson singing the solo inspired me so much. And I would always try to sing along with her, just like her.
Mhm. Oh,
So
yes. I can
that's
hear
what
that song in
really,
my head. Oh, yeah.
oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No one else does it like her.
Oh,
I think I've heard another choir try to do it, and it wasn't right because it wasn't
mm-mm.
Anika. So, but
Yep.
that was the one song that really got me. That and also watching Sleeping Beauty, Disney Sleeping Beauty. I would sing along
Mm.
with Aurora, and
Nice.
that always inspired me. So that was kind of how I realized I had a classical gift. But
Mm-hmm.
before I always was a gospel belter. And
Yes.
I went to
I mean,
Oakwood
that's,
to be mhm.
yeah, no, I was just gonna say that's the music that you grew up listening to was gospel, so makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was the only voice I knew how to naturally do. You know,
Mhm.
it's a lot that
Mhm.
goes into singing classically because, you know, you learn a technique to do it. But
Mhm.
I went to Oakwood to be a science major. I was a biology major. I wanted to do pre-med and I started taking voice lessons because my mother she forced me to join the Aeolians. And I was, by the time I got to Oakwood, I was like, no, I'm a bio major. Like, I'm too busy for that. I can't. And she threatened to take my car away. I was like,
Oh,
ooh,
she knew you
okay.
had a gift and she was determined that you use it.
Yeah. And I think also because, you know, with like Dr. Blackman and my grandmother, Inez Booth, you know, their connection with the music department was so strong. And I think that was
Mhm.
important to my mom because she grew up around that, you know, she grew up around the
Mhm.
old school Aeolians. And I think it was
Yeah,
important for her to be, for me to be a part of that legacy and kind of continue it. And so I'm glad that she did. You know, I thank her to this day for making me do
for
that.
sure.
And the funny thing is I
Yeah.
auditioned and I didn't get in to the Aeolians. And
Really?
yeah, that's how I started taking voice lessons from my voice teacher, Julie Moore Foster.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So I was like,
Wow.
okay. Yeah. So when I
I mean,
started
at that
taking with
point,
her,
yeah, at that point you say,
mhm,
"Mom, I mean, I tried. They didn't want me."
right.
That's
Actually,
so
at that
ironic.
point, I was like, oh no, you're not gonna tell me no. So I was
Okay.
determined. Yeah,
It
so it kind of
was a
turned my
challenge then.
whole perspective. Yeah, so yeah, that's how it started. I eventually added a music minor and then I switched to and made biology my minor and music my major. Because I asked God
Mm.
for a sign, like if this is what you want me to do. And I made all A's and B's in my music classes and C's and D's in my science classes. And I was like,
Oh, there's your
okay,
sign.
pretty clear.
Right. So
And
when you chose
so
biology, what did you think that
yeah.
you wanted to do before you did music? What were you thinking you wanted to do?
Um, I wanted to be a psychiatrist. At first, it was child adolescent psychiatrist, but I wanted to do forensic psychiatry.
Mm, hmm. But
Yeah.
eventually,
I mean, even to this day, I'm kind of still interested in it. I'm like,
okay.
oh, do I want to go back to school? But music is taking up all of my time. So
Yeah, but never say never. That it could, you may still circle
no,
back and
definitely
do
not.
something. Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
definitely do. I mean, I always am trying to enlighten myself and educate myself and, maybe not sit
Mhm.
in a classroom and get a degree, but, I can still buy a book and
Yeah,
research,
yeah,
forensic psychiatry. I mean, it interests me,
yeah.
so.
True,
Mhm.
true. So was
Yeah.
there a pivotal moment when you knew Like, was it just when you got your grades, or was there like any pivotal moment when you were like, okay, I need to switch over to music full time?
Um,
In terms
you
of
know,
schooling, I
it
mean,
was
yeah,
probably the grades. I
yeah.
mean, because really after a while it didn't just become about schooling, it became about this is what I want to do. This was in me. When I started taking voice lessons, Julie would play for me the opera singer Renee Fleming. I saw the spirituals concert that happened with that had been recorded years before by Kathleen Battle and Jesse
Mhm.
Norman, two great African American opera singers that I greatly, greatly admired. And
Mhm.
those were the three sopranos that I first heard that really inspired me. And I remember Julie playing Renee Fleming for me one day in her studio, and she pointed to the recording, to the stereo, and then pointed to me like, "This is you. This can be you."
Oh,
And it was something that just came over me and was like, I believe her.
oh wow.
and
Yeah.
and my grandmother as well, she said, your gift is so amazing. She said it's as if the Lord dropped it in your throat. And she said,
Oh
one
wow.
of these days, people are going to be lined up around the corner. I tell the story all the time to everybody. She said, one of these days, people are going to be lined up around the corner to come hear you sing. And she said, I may not be here to see it, but you
Oh,
mark my words, watch what I tell you. And I was just
oh.
like, what? Really? Me? And so she had a huge hand in it too. Yeah.
Oh man, and your grandmother was so special. I mean, that lady was just amazing, just
She was.
so committed and such a just a light and just sweet, just a sweet,
Hmm.
sweet woman. Oh man, I know
Yeah,
how much
she
that must have
was.
meant to you to hear her say that. And then when you did it, I'm sure you thought about her.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh,
I mean, I said she was
yeah.
right. She said she may not be here to see it, but she knew it was gonna happen before I did. So
Oh,
I had
I
to,
love
I
that.
mean, at times when I wanted to give up, I had to hold on to see that through.
Yeah. So we were just talking at the top of the show about Black women that we admire. I imagine that you must call her name
Oh,
as one of those women for
oh
sure.
yes. As
Inez.
you were saying it, I was like, if I get asked this question, it's gonna be my grandmother, like hands down.
Yes. Yes.
Hands
Oh
down.
man. I tell you, amazing. So, speaking of other influences, we had on the show a while back another beautiful Black woman who is an opera singer. And I know that you have a connection to her as well, Angela Brown. So, talk to us about
Yeah, my
your
girl.
how you two connected.
So the first time we connected, I was still a student at Oakwood, and she was on tour with the American Spiritual Ensemble, and they came to Oakwood to do a concert. And whenever a big name artist comes, they always come to the school to do a master class if they can make that happen. And so,
Mhm.
several of the singers from the choir um, performed a master class, and so maybe like two or three singers sang for two or three of the artists. And I was
Mhm.
one of the students that sang for Angela Brown, of course, and I was so excited. And I came in there. I don't even remember the aria I sang, but I thought I was so cute. I had my fishnets on because that's what was in at the time. It had to be like 2004, maybe. And she ripped me to shreds. It was before she said anything about my singing. She was like, "Okay, you cannot audition with those on in the opera world, child." She said they will get you. And she did this to me in front of everybody, and I was like, "Oh my god." And I
Yikes.
had long orange nails.
Oh,
And she was like, "Yeah,
she
you
was
have to
like,
get rid
no,
of
sis.
all of that."
She's like, no.
And so to this day, she calls me fishnets to this day. So, but I love her, and she's always been like a huge mentor. Like, if I remember when I first left Oakwood and I really was trying to figure out, this whole singing thing, and especially growing up Seventh Day Adventist, and I talked to her like, how did you do it?
Yeah.
and how did you make a way? And so
Hmm.
I just really appreciate her for her time and just for being willing to take the time to talk to
Hmm.
me and inspire me and encourage me. So she's a huge part of why I am where I am today.
Yeah. It's so important to know that none of us makes it where we are by ourselves. We all have to have someone who comes alongside and gives us that tough love or that critical feedback to help make us
Hmm.
better. And that's
Indeed.
awesome that another woman with Black Girl Magic shared what she knew with you so that you could carry it forward. I love
Hmm.
that.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
So you left Oakwood, music major, and then what? What was the next step for you?
It's so crazy. I was told that the perfect track is graduate undergrad, get your master's, graduate with your master's, get into a young artist program, which is a program like an apprentice program at an opera house for young singers. And usually, agents and managers will kind of stake out singers that are there in the program and then maybe sign them and boom, career. It did not happen for me like that at all. I
Mhm.
was at Catholic University. I graduated, and as soon as I graduated, I was like, okay, I'm going to New York. I'm gonna start auditioning and, try to make this thing happen. And I did not get into one young artist program. I was
Mm.
in New York from 2009 until 2013 before I got my first yes. And as
Mm.
many people know, but if you don't know me, you don't know that I have a son. And I got
Mm.
pregnant with my son in 2011.
Mm.
And so I had him in 2012, and that was like, wow. I mean, that for me was a real turning point because I now say that because I decided to accept the assignment of becoming a
Mhm.
mom, that's what got me my first yes. That was when
Mm.
doors started opening. And I got my first yes for Prelude to Performance, which is the Martina Arroyo Foundation's Young Artist Program. And I
Mm.
sang my first role, professional role with their program. And then they brought me back 2 years later. And then, I mean, everything, it was just domino
Mm.
effect from there. I started getting
Mm.
gig after gig after gig.
Wow.
And still to this day, I've never done a young artist program for any opera house. And I've had friends tell me, I don't know how you were able to make it to the Metropolitan Opera and you've never done a young artist program. And
Wow.
I've been very, very blessed, very
Mm.
blessed. So,
What do you
yeah.
think it was that happened to you after you having your son? Was there something that clicked for you, or was it just you feel like just God's hand moving in the way in His own way? Yeah.
Yeah. Because nothing changed for me. I had always been
Hmm.
working. I had always been auditioning and practicing and learning rep and doing everything that I could possibly do to
Hmm.
um, get a job, and it
Yeah.
just wasn't happening. So
Hmm.
I'm very I mean, honestly, even to this day, I stand by accepting the
Hmm.
assignment to become a mom is just what
Hmm.
did it. My son brought my blessing.
Hmm. Interesting. So that's an important
Yeah.
story to share because it just speaks to the struggle that is part of the journey. It's inevitable. We each have our cross to bear, I guess you could say. What kind of work did you have to do in the meantime to survive before getting the big break?
Oh, I did a lot of singing for churches.
Mm.
You would have staff singers or ringers, what they call them. I was at
Mm.
Ephesus Seventh-day Adventist Church, on Sabbaths at Abyssinian Baptist Church in Harlem. On
Mm.
Sundays, I would be at Grace Baptist Church,
Mhm.
or whatever music program they called me for. I even worked in an OBGYN's office
Mm,
right after I had Judah. I said he was maybe 8 months old when I started working there. And
mm-hmm,
I remember I had done several Messiah performances, being the soprano soloist,
mm-hmm.
and made way more money in a day singing Messiah than I did in 2 weeks working at that office. And I just told
Wow.
myself, I can't do this. I can't do this. But I had to
Yeah.
do it, because I was also very fortunate that my dad, who also passed in 2014, was very
Mhm.
supportive of me pursuing this dream. And he paid my rent for me in New York so that I did not have
Wow.
to, really, really take the time away from auditioning and practicing and learning music and just
Mhm.
developing my craft. And
Yeah.
so he did it for as long as he could and
Mhm.
helped me as much as he could. And then I had to supplement that as well. So
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. So give us some insight into the work of a singer when you talk about practicing and perfecting your craft. What does that involve?
um learning your voice. I think one, and not even I think, I know one thing that really held me back was not knowing my voice and not trusting that I knew my voice because, when you're coming up and you're taking lessons, you trust your teachers and your coaches and
Mhm.
others who hear you. People who, like, if I did competitions, sometimes you would get feedback from judges and they would
Mhm.
give their opinion, like, well, I don't think you should be singing this, you should sing this, or
Mhm.
your voice is too big for this, or your voice is too small for that. And I
Mhm.
think I listened to everyone, because I
Mhm.
said, well, they're more educated in this industry than I am. They're more experienced. They've been around longer. So certainly they know what they're talking about. Until
Mhm.
one time I did a competition and I got feedback from judges and I was more centered and grounded in knowing my voice.
Mhm.
And because I practiced more, I had been singing more, auditioning more, and that day, I remember being so certain that what they were saying made no
Mhm.
sense. And I had
Mhm.
to tell the very last judge because I sat there quietly and listened to the first two judges. It's like, okay, okay. And then something just boiled my blood at the last judge, and I said, I don't agree with that.
Wow.
And I said, I got my first, because he told me that the aria I auditioned with, which was the aria that got me my first Met Opera contract, he didn't think I should be singing it. And I said,
Mm.
I don't agree with that because this aria got me my first Metropolitan Opera contract. So I'm not
Mm.
putting it away. And he
Wow.
said, he just had to close his book. He said, oh, well, I just don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know. Because he didn't have anything bad to say about it. He said, all of the
Yeah.
difficult parts you sang flawlessly. So that's why I know
Yeah.
that, or that's when I realized that it's all subjective. He probably
Yeah.
heard someone else sing the aria that he liked and it
Yeah.
didn't sound like me. So he
Yeah.
wanted to offer his opinion. But that's all
Right.
that was, his opinion. There are
Yeah.
many other opinions out there that got me my first Met Opera contract. So
Yeah.
it was really just about learning, sitting at the table because I also have to sing in other languages. So learning Italian, French, German, how to
Mhm.
speak them as best I can, but especially how to sing them and pronounce them correctly, and translating
Mhm.
music, and just learning my voice, knowing what I can and can't do and what I do the best. That really shows
Yeah.
Brandie off.
Nice. I think that's so translatable. I think what you just said to many of us, whether even if we're not singers, is knowing what you are good at and perfecting that and taking criticism with a grain of salt. So like criticism can be helpful, but it can also break you
Mhm.
down. And so you have to sort of balance the criticism that you get with what you know of yourself. And understanding that some of it is subjective. It is someone's opinion because they have a preference for one thing or another, and so you have to kind of weigh it, right? And I would
Yeah.
imagine go with what you feel best about for yourself. But also, like, if the majority of people who hear you, are saying one thing, and there's like one or two who are saying something else, it's probably the majority that are more in line with the truth. And you can't,
Right.
because I know it can be easy to be concerned about those who don't like you or don't like what you're doing, right? You can get caught up with trying to figure out what you should
Yeah.
change in order to please that small percentage. But you'll
Yeah.
spend your life trying to do that. You're never going to please everyone.
No, it's impossible because we're all different.
Yeah,
Everybody
right,
has a different opinion and they different tastes, and that's what makes
right.
humankind beautiful. So I'm good with
Yeah,
that. I just had to come to, you know, be happy with what I have to offer, and I have to love
yeah,
it myself, you know.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So how much time would you say you have to spend on one performance? Let's say if you're doing a concert, or I'm not versed enough in the, arias and whatever, but like how much time would you say you spend preparing for, the performances, particularly when you have to do one in another language? Like what kind of time do you have to put into that?
Yeah, months. If I'm doing an
Mhm.
opera, um, I like to start, honestly, at the very least, a month out. But if
Mm,
I can start like 2 to 6 months ahead, it depends also on how busy my schedule is. Sometimes it's just not possible.
mhm,
That's why I love to do shows that I've already done, because then I know it's not much learning that has to be done. But I have to
mhm,
sing through it so much so that when I open my mouth, it's like singing happy birthday. Um,
mm,
and
mhm,
because first I have to sit down and translate the piece, I have to dig dig up my character and make a
mhm,
story for them before page 1. Like, I can read through the
mhm,
score and see the story, but, why do they make these gestures? Why are they who they are? Something happened
mhm,
to them that made them, have the beliefs that they have, and so I make up a story for them, and that way I can really honestly portray the character, on
mhm,
stage. And memorizing is, it's a lot, but it's a lot that goes into it. It's a lot of money that goes into it. I
mhm,
pay coaches to sit for an hour and play through the piece for me and help
mhm,
me with interpretation, with pronunciation, with the diction,
mhm,
of the words, also with notes, rhythms, all of that. I
mhm.
mean, it's a daily commitment.
Yeah.
And so I try to put in, I mean, like at least 3 hours a day when I'm preparing. What helps me the most is listening to it over and over. So I have an amazing coach at the Met whose name is Jonathan Kelly. I love him to death. He will record himself teaching me the roles and send them to me,
Mhm.
and I just listen to it on repeat. And so
Yeah.
it sticks in my body, and that's how
Mhm.
that's how I prepare. But it's like
Yeah.
months in advance.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned in the bio, I didn't read all of it, but I think somewhere in there you talked about, you're not just singing, you're also performing, and you're taking on a character that's telling a story. And I remember when Angela was here, she talked about that as well. So you've had to learn how to be an actor as well as a singer.
Yeah.
How has that
And
been?
I had a large lesson learned with that when I was with the Young Artist program that I was mentioning earlier, Prelude to Performance. And Martina Arroyo is so amazing. Whenever she does master classes, she always says, I don't like to touch too much on technique because you already have a teacher and I don't want to interfere with what they're telling you, but we will speak about interpretation and portraying characters. And we each had to do an acting class for during the program. So we would maybe meet once a week, or no, maybe 2 or 3 times a week. We would have the class. And I remember one class I had to sing my aria, And when I finished, I was so excited that I was happy about what I had just sung until Martina said, "Well, it was beautiful, but it was boring." I was like,
Oh.
"What?" I was torn up. And she said, You didn't give me any of the character." And I realized that, a lot of times when we're singing, I'm thinking so much about, let me not forget these words and these
Yeah.
rhythms, these notes.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the singing more so
Yeah.
than making these people feel something. And
Mhm.
that's when that became really important to me to, okay, now I got to dig
Mhm.
in, a different
Mhm.
way. There's
Mhm.
more to it. It's layers to it, because it is
Yeah.
not just singing, it is being an actor and telling a story. And not just with opera, with any song that I'm singing, with, art
Mhm.
songs that I know, which usually if I do a recital or something, it's less preparation because I like to um, put in songs that I already have done that I love.
Mhm.
But then
Mhm.
it also depends. If I want to do a recital of new stuff, then I will it
Mhm.
takes just as much preparation as an opera, but yeah.
Yeah. That's so interesting. When we watch you perform, we're not thinking about all that went into preparing for that performance. We don't realize what is involved.
No,
Lisa
most
James,
people don't.
yeah, Lisa James just put in the comments, it's similar to playing the piano. There's all the preparation that goes with
Mhm,
perfecting it. And then there's even
mhm,
interpretation when you're playing a song on the piano. You can't just play the notes. There has to be some emotion behind it. As Stefania Howell says, that's
absolutely.
powerful technique.
Oh,
Technique is important, but
Stefania.
people will remember how you make them feel. Yes, I was going to say that too. The emotion behind it. It's not the technical perfection. It's the way you're able to interpret it so that your audience
Absolutely.
really has an experience. Yeah.
Mhm, yeah, and like she said, technique is definitely very important because, if it sounds bad, people will remember that.
Right.
But I've I've always said my motto is people will forgive musical mistakes if you make them feel something. Because
Yeah.
sometimes if you're singing something that's so emotional and you crack, they may say, "Well, oh my gosh, she was so emotional. Like, did you hear the
Yeah.
emotion in her voice?" They won't
Right.
even know that it was, something. And sometimes for me, I will get emotional where that happens, and
Yeah.
so, but people feel that, it's real
Yeah.
humans being human, and
Right.
you're really relating to your audience, and they love
Yeah.
that, and I think that's
Yeah.
important, more important than being perfect, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and the stories that are being told really need to be told. Can you talk about some of the great opportunities that you've had to portray particular characters? I already know that you've had some amazing opportunities. So share some of the characters that you've been able to portray.
Man, I've probably my most, um, oh man, the one that I remember really impacting me the most was Madame Butterfly, because the
Mm,
story is so sad. I mean, opera is always tragic, but she's a 15-year-old girl a 15-year-old Japanese girl who becomes a geisha. And a geisha that is, um, well, these American soldiers come over, and it was during the time of the war where soldiers would come and kind of hook up with some of these Japanese girls
mm,
because they would kind of entertain the soldiers while they were there.
mm,
And so she ended up getting with this American soldier and falling in love with him. And he ended up having to leave after some time, but they had a child together,
mm,
and he didn't know. And he left, and she thought he was coming back, and for 3 years, she waited for him, thinking he was
mm,
coming back, and her nursemaid was telling her, "I don't think you." coming back. But she
Mm-hmm.
was like,
Mm-hmm.
no, you're wrong. And she sings this beautiful aria, Un bel dì vedremo, which is one beautiful day we will see. And she describes it in detail, him coming back. And he ends up, oh my goodness, and there it is. And he ends up coming back with another wife, an American
Oh
wife,
wow.
because his lieutenant comes over and sees that she has the baby, and he writes a letter to him to let him know. And
Uh-huh.
he comes back to try to get the child. And she says, I think the child will have a better life if he goes back to America with him. Once she finds out that he's with this other woman, she's heartbroken. And she ends up killing
Mm,
herself in this ritual suicide to maintain her honor. And it's
mm,
so heart-wrenching. And at the
mm,
time, my son was 3 when I played the role, and they had
mm.
actually asked me if I could possibly have him be the child in the opera to play. Then I was like, I don't think I'll make it. So they
Yeah.
ended up getting another child that was a little older, that was just a lot smaller, so she looked 3. But
Hmm.
yeah, I was like, I don't know if I would be able to do it with my actual son. I won't make it through
Right,
the aria.
right.
And the last aria is amazing, where she sings to the child, like, remember
Oh,
your mother, and I'll
oh,
see you in paradise. And
oh,
it's
oh
crazy.
my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I think that we don't often appreciate the way literature, opera, stories, they reflect human experience. And, we sometimes want to brush it off
Agreed.
as just entertainment, but it's a reflecting human experience, and it can be very powerful. It
Yeah.
can
And a
be
lot of
very
people don't
powerful.
know that about opera. They
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, opera, what is that? I can't understand it."
Mhm.
And it's like,
Yeah.
well, when you go, the super titles are there. They will translate
Yeah.
it for you. But,
Yeah.
like my sister said, I love anything that tells a story.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way. And those stories, I mean, I think Bohème was the first opera that I heard that really made me say, "Oh, wow, this is like
Mm,
current life." Like, even though this opera was
mhm,
written 200 years ago, this,
mhm.
this is very applicable today.
Oh, yeah.
It's like starving artists all living in an apartment together, and this one of the artists finds this woman, or she finds him. She wanders over to his house because she's lost her key, and they fall in love, but she's sick and she's got tuberculosis. And so, in those days, there wasn't like medicine that we have today. And so she ends up dying
Mhm.
from it. But I
Mm,
mean, the story is, it's all very real life. A lot of
yeah.
the little one-liners in the operas too are like, okay, this is
Mm,
something I would say today. So
yeah.
yeah, I love it. I love opera. I do.
Yeah, I can tell. And we were sort of brought into it with Angela Brown when she was on. She was educating us and telling us to broaden our horizons and give it a try. Because I'm one of those people who was like opera. But yeah, when I hear
Yeah,
you all talk
no.
about it, I'm much more intrigued and much more interested in learning
Yeah.
more. And then speaking of the connection to real life and the real world, I know that you have also done some work with like um, justice and the I know you did something with not political, but like tell me, it was something with I want to say poetic justice. I guess it is kind of poetic justice, but talk about some of the social justice work that you've done through music as well.
So I was part of the Equal Justice Initiative. They are a organization out of Montgomery, Alabama, that is led by the amazing man Brian Stevenson. And they opened a museum a few years back, the Legacy Museum, from slavery to mass incarceration. And I am in the exhibit as soon as you walk in as a slave singing the spiritual Lord, how come me here? And so I also have sung for a couple of their oh my goodness, for their and was it their anniversary? They do like an annual dinner banquet here in New
Mhm.
York as well. So I've
Mhm.
just sung for them a couple times, but I also sang for the opening of the museum with
Mm.
Andra Day, John
Oh, yeah.
Legend, and BB Winans. And so
Nice.
I was the one. I was like, I know, because I like to talk when I perform, and so people can get to know me. And I said, I know, most everybody in here doesn't know Brandie Inez Sutton. They were like, well, we know now. Someone yelled it from the audience. But I'm
Awesome.
just, grateful for every opportunity. I don't like to just stick to the opera stage. I like to sing wherever
Mhm.
my gift can be used and appreciated.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't want to get out of here without at least doing a quick sample of one of your performances. I know we found one. I don't remember which one we have queued up, Amanda, but let's see if we can take a listen to one of your performances and hear this amazing voice.
Okay.
Barren, strange fruit, blood on the leaves, and blood at the roots, black body swinging in the strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees.
Hmm. Oof. That song always hits hard. Yeah,
Yeah,
Strange Fruit.
and that was another thing I forgot about that. That was LA Opera's after hours recital. I was doing it for a colleague, mentor, friend, Russell Thomas, who's an amazing tenor.
Mm,
And he had us do a songs of protest recital. He wanted it
mm,
specifically to be that for
mhm,
their audiences. We did it last summer. And he
mhm,
told me he wanted me to do Strange Fruit and Nina Simone's For Women and songs like that, anything that was a protest. And it was an
mhm.
amazing recital. So, yeah.
I
And that was
bet.
my amazing friend, Damian Sneed, on the piano. He's really, really dope artist. Plays for everybody.
Beautiful. Yeah, beautiful voice. I mean, your voice is amazing. When
Thank
I look at
you.
you, I don't expect that to come out of you. It's always
No
like,
one does.
whoa, what was that? You become like this whole other person.
Indeed, no one does. It's always so funny when I tell people I'm a singer and they're like, "Oh, why don't you sing for us? Are you gonna sing some Mary J. Blige?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not."
Yeah, no.
And I open my mouth and they're like, "Whoa, I wasn't expecting
Whoa.
that."
It's
So
true.
yeah, it's
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 true.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. I love it. So we're almost out
Thank
of
you.
time, but I've enjoyed this conversation so much. I'm interested in you sharing what's coming up for you. What's the latest? I know you were on the cover of a magazine recently, and yeah, talk a
Yes.
little bit about that real quick, and then whatever is coming up as
Yes.
far as performances.
Yes. So, this magazine is a new magazine, the whole review. It's really geared towards the opera industry. A lot of stories in there about other singers, I think he's doing, oh yeah, 100-year anniversary of Renata Tebaldi, who was an amazing soprano. But the story is basically he kind of related it to Cinderella because I just sang the Fairy Godmother at the Metropolitan Opera in December. And
Nice.
so he wanted to kind of make a story about, you know, my own Cinderella story and
Yeah.
everything, because he's known me since I moved. The editor of the magazine, Courtney Carey, he's known me since I moved here to New York,
Hmm.
and so he's kind of watched my growth. And so
Yeah.
I was really, really honored for the opportunity and to be able to be a part of that. So you can get your digital copy. I think I should be. I think I have. Oh, on my Instagram, I have the link. So it's at
Okay.
Brandie_Inez. You can find the link
Okay.
to get a digital copy to get the story. Performance wise, I am getting ready to go to um, Michigan Opera Theater in Detroit to do La Boheme, singing the role of Musetta. Right
Mm.
after that, I will be in Huntsville finally. I think
Yay.
this is the first time I've come back to Huntsville to do a professional show. Yeah, it is. So I
Okay.
will be singing in L'Elisir d'Amore with Opera Huntsville at the end
Okay.
of April, April 22nd, 23rd, and 24th.
Okay.
And I leave, I probably have about 4 or 5 days break to come home. And then I'm going to Portland, Oregon to do African American Requiem. A friend of mine, Damian Jeter, composed this requiem for soprano, alto, tenor, bass solo, chorus, orchestra, and it's like a homage to our fallen brothers and sisters due to police brutality. And
Mm.
so, one piece I know that for the tenor has a piece that the words are just "I can't breathe." And it's going to
Mm.
actually be broadcast live on WQXR, which is the classical radio station here in New York. That will
Mm-hmm.
be May 7th. And then I leave
Nice.
straight from there to go do another Bohème with a Spoleto Festival in Charleston, South Carolina. And that's mid-June. So
Okay.
I'm super excited. And then, since I can say it now, since the Met has announced their season, I will be returning to sing in Peter Grimes at the Met in, I think, October. I'm terrible,
Good.
but I will be putting everything up on my website. So,
Awesome. So lots of work, which is always good. You
mhm.
got performances back to back lined up, and as you
Yeah.
said, the sky's the limit. Who knows what will come after that?
Yes, I'm actually working on creating my own show because
Mm.
a lot of times, when you're in an industry that is, you're not in charge of, you have to
Mhm.
create your own platform. And so
Mm.
that's what I'm working on now. So I won't talk too much about it. It's in the infant stages, but just send
Okay.
your thoughts and prayers for me for that.
Definitely will. Definitely will. And we'll keep following you on Instagram to see what is next. And I'm glad you'll
Thank
be coming
you.
home next month or April, you said. No matter where you
Yes, me
go, you'll
too.
still be a hometown girl at
Oh,
heart.
yeah,
We still
always.
claim you. Always.
Good.
But it's awesome to see you fly and touch lives everywhere. And so
Thank
congratulations
you.
on all of the success, and thank you for
Thank
sharing your
you.
story
Thank you so
today.
much. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. It's my duty. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. It has been a lovely conversation. It's been a lovely month of conversations with these women who are sharing with us their Black girl magic. And I want to end with our scripture, which comes from Psalm 96, 1-3. It says, "Sing to the Lord a new song, praise his name, proclaim his salvation day after day, declare his glory among the nations, his marvelous deeds among all peoples." And, with Brandi singing and offering her gift everywhere she goes. She is carrying with her what she has gained from her upbringing, from a grandmother and a mother who loved the Lord and taught her to love the Lord. And so no matter how far away she goes from home, she is blessing those that she comes in contact with the gift that God has given her. And I know she's bringing him glory everywhere she goes. And I'm just so excited to have introduced her to you. Continue to follow her and pray for her and her success, continued success. So guys, I want to tell you real quick before we go, next week starts a brand new theme. And this is going to be a good one, so you don't want to miss it. The theme for March, it's Women's History Month. And for the month, we are talking about things my mother never told me. Yeah. And we're kicking it off with a conversation with the vagina rehab doctor, no less, Janelle Howell. Okay, so you don't want to miss that conversation. And we are absolutely excited to also talk to Micah ML6 Logan, who is a breast cancer survivor and has an absolutely amazing story to share as well. And then later in the month, we will meet Jade Warshaw, who will teach us about money and how to have more feast, less famine. And then we'll round out the month with Darissa Williams talking to us about motherhood. So we have a whole new theme, lots of good information coming our way. So you don't want to miss it. Be sure to be here. I look forward to seeing you again soon.